Hi everybody, Tay here at Lift Arc Studios, and we have an exciting video for you today. I am going to go over my 5 favorite tools of the year of 2023 and a few honorable mentions. There's just certain things that you find if you specialize in a trade that really make your life easier. My reasoning for what I chose is sort of a feeling more than anything, but with each one of these tools I can reference a particular problem that it helped me solve that not many other tools would help me solve. But before we dive into this video, I just wanted to say hi. I don't know that I've done a piece to camera in a while, but I just want to say thank you guys for all the support you've given us this year on YouTube. The channel's growing quite a bit. No doubt because of the efforts of the man holding the camera here, Mr. Walker Hooper, but also due to you guys and the support you've shown us. So thank you very much for that. It is becoming a nice stress relief to here at Lift Arc, you know, part of the business that makes sense to dump lots of effort into thanks to y'all's support, but also is just fun. Also, if you've been trying to access our website lately, we are in the middle of an e-commerce switchover, so we're switching everything over to Shopify. I know those that do e-commerce are like, you know, finally, what took you so long? You know, started with Squarespace, then went to ShipStation because of some ads I heard on podcasts, which turns out it's just an ad and they wanted my money and doesn't solve all my problems. And I need Shopify in order to sell on Facebook and YouTube and stuff. So hopefully now, boy, I hope this works. Underneath this video and all of our videos going forward, you will be able to shop for the products that we make. So the shelf brackets, the collapsible flat pack fire pits, and other things that we come up with. We want to make it really easy for you guys to put some of our stuff in your hands, obviously, and if you choose to support us in that way, thank you again. A lot of people have purchased our flat pack fire pits and our shelf brackets, so if you have, sound off in the comments below, let the people know what you think. Thank you for that. So, without further ado, let's get into my 5 favorite tools of 2023. Okay, so my first choice for my 5 favorite tools of 2023 is this little rod bender. So this is made by a company called Huth Ben Pearson. I actually saw their booth at PRI. But I bought this through a site called Trick Tools. I'm sure many of you have heard of it. It is a up to 3/8 mild steel bender, and it's all analog and manual, and it's beautifully made, and it's very simple. I love this thing. And it really is about as complicated as it needs to be. It's just got some fingers, and the way you position it and bend it, you can bend flat bar and rods, and it doesn't take up much space. I love how much you can do with it given its size, but I'll show you how it works. This block on the bottom is meant to just be clamped in your vise. So I usually just clamp this in the vise, sticking up a little bit, sort of like that. And so that's how it occupies space. And this is actually what I used to make the skewers that get shipped out with our flat pack fire pit. So to make this bend right here, you know, I find a way to make a stop and an angle stop that way. But really all you do is set whatever you want to bend in here, tension it, and then you just use this handle and bend. It's super, super simple. It's really easy to use as long as you're within the material limitations of the bender. And so like if you want to make hooks, brackets, you know, any of that stuff that you find yourself needing when you're doing custom fabrication, it's great for that. You know, the automotive world, if you need to mount radiators or intercoolers or exhausts, you know, you need to bend some rods or flat bar to make these brackets or hangers. And it's just awesome for that. You know, you can jump around, bend up several bends. You know, you can, if you really get it down, you can make all sorts of cool shapes really fast. And then they're long enough here, you can use 1-inch flat bar, right? So if you want to make a mounting bracket for something, you just stick your flat bar in there. And maybe you want it to be a Z bracket, like so. Super simple, super easy, up to 3/8 mild steel. Love this little bender. We will be putting links to everything, affiliate or non-affiliate, down in the description. So if you want to go check it out, I'm pretty sure Trick Tool still sells this, but you could probably go straight to Huth Ben Pearson themselves. I don't remember what I purchased it for. It was around the $100 mark, definitely less than 200. You know, it's not uber cheap. I'm sure there's Chinese knockoffs of this bender out on the overseas websites, but at this price point, you know, benders are one thing where like, it's easy to break it if it's a cheap tool. Given your shop environment, someone could easily overpower a bender if they don't know its limitations or how it works. So having benders that are well made and can take a beating ensures you're gonna have it for a long time. Love this tool. It takes up no space and it's an obvious problem solver for the shop. So my next favorite tool of 2023 is this right angle driver from Milwaukee. So it uses standard like 1/4-inch drive, so you can put all your standard bits and whatnot in there. And then it has a drive here that you can put in a drill or a driver or a hex driver here. But it's in here is just a 90-degree gearbox. You know, it turns rotational movement going in this direction into rotational movement going that direction. And you might be thinking, wow, it went metal shop, why the heck do you need something like this? Well, on all of our installs, when it comes to railings or signs, given the geometry that the piece is made of, sometimes accessing fasteners can be tough, especially when you're dumb and you don't think about the person installing it sometimes, and you make it like impossible to reach where the fasteners need to go. Plan A never really counts on this device. It's usually plan B or C where this thing comes into play. But like, you know, for instance, on that impact title sign that we installed, I used this to put the cover on the electrical box after we hung the sign in front of it, because you couldn't get a full screwdriver. So I was able to take a 1/4-inch nut driver, put it on there, and then you have this neat little package that, you know, only measures less than 2 inches with a bit in there. So for instance, if this vise was like some area you needed to get into, you could fit this in there, access the fastener you need, and again, you can run it with the hex driver or stick it in a drill and go for it. You could even get like a socket adapter, you know, and now you have a 90-degree ratchet essentially, or just driver that you could put on an impact or something. So this thing stays in our installation bag that I take to every install that has all sorts of stuff in here. This has more than earned its place in the field bag, and I love that thing. For those curious, Milwaukee sells all their stuff by numbers. This is the 48-32-2390. I got this at Home Depot, but I'm sure you can get it anywhere Milwaukee tools are sold. And you know, Milwaukee's not the only company that makes this thing. DeWalt makes one, Makita probably makes one, but we have a lot of red in our shop and I'm a big Milwaukee fan, so there's a little bit of brand loyalty there. So that's number 2, the 90-degree driver from Milwaukee. Real cool problem solver. All right, my next favorite tool, and these aren't in any particular order of preference or favoritism, just left to right. My next favorite tool is this thing. This particular one is a clutch, a pneumatic version. There's several trade names for these. Die filer, some might call it a dynaphile because of I think that's the company that probably brought these to market first. You know, rotophile, whatever, mini belt sander essentially is what it is. But this one, it's called a mini air belt sander. There you go. Item number 47923, I got this one from Northern Tool and Equipment. I paid $100 for this, and it's a really cool piece of kit. So basically, it's pneumatic. They make electric versions of this. In fact, Steve, perfect example, Steve has an electric version of this tool. The reason I picked this was not because of the clutch version. It's the entire existence of this kind of tool. You just have this wonderful small radius at the end here, you know, and these belts this one's kind of broken. The belts are interchangeable. You can get different grits, but you know, changing the belt's real easy, and it's a similar process on most of these. You have your drive roller here, you stick your belt in, and then you wrap it around the end, release the thing, and now it's tight. So the reason I love this is, you know, especially when we're doing handrails and stuff, this is used in this shop in the finishing. You know, the last sort of touch on a metal fabricated product or design that's about to go to finish. It just allows you to really get a nice radius and get into places where you normally wouldn't be able to. If you have a rail with pickets, you know, you can kind of get this thing in between pickets, you know, where you might not be able to get a grinder with a flap wheel. This is obviously my normal go-to for smoothing and grinding and deburring and whatnot. But when this doesn't fit, this is a great thing to reach for. And you know, we have air in the shop. So I of course went with the pneumatic version. And it's just great. Like, this adjustable speed. It is loud, but this particular one was only $100. You can spend a lot of money on these Dynaphile die filer. I think some people call it a die filer, but also the die filer is usually a table with a file sticking out of it. So this, I'm just gonna call it a Dynaphile, Dynabraid. I think Dynabraid is the company that makes the big expensive ones. But we've been beating the heck out of this thing, and for $100, I don't think you can really go wrong. It's still putting up with a lot, and we use it all the time, and the belts are easy to get. Definitely want to spend some good money on the belts, because the cheap Amazon belts that these come with just get roached so fast. So that kind of goes with any grinding tools. Like, you know, if you buy a cheap tool, that's great. This one that Steve got is from Harbor Freight. It's the Bauer, you know, version, just electric versus air. But if you cheap out on the tool, get the nice abrasives, get nice blades, get nice sanding equipment, get nice bits. Cheap drill with a nice drill bit in it is a lot better than a good drill with a crappy drill bit in it, you know? So it's kind of like cameras too. You can take a crappy camera and put a nice lens on it, and it's much nicer. So definitely recommend picking one of these up, either electric or air. They are great problem solvers. And again, they don't take up much space. This one can rotate, index, and sort of pack down. And then we keep, on the token of pneumatic tools, we took a bunch of female air chucks and screwed them to a piece of metal so that we can just store all of our air tools up here. So that's not the item I'm talking about, but worth mentioning. The mini belt sanders, great tools, highly recommend it. All right, so this next category, I was gonna pick one thing, but I decided to cover a magnetic category. So these are several of my favorite magnetic things that I use in the shop. First thing is these awesome magnetic levels from Milwaukee. And truly, I think Milwaukee makes the best ones of these I've found. I've bought cheaper versions, but you know, when it's level and plumb is important when you're building things, and you know, you kind of want to keep your precision measuring equipment of high quality. But these things are awesome because they're magnetic, like I said, but they're magnetic on both sides. You know, it's a standard bubble level, but you have this nice beveled magnetic way on this side, and then you have magnetic ways on the bottom. So obviously they stick to the surface, but they also stick to the side of something. So if you're looking to get it level, and because they're beveled, you can stick it to a pipe, and it indexes, it slips into that bevel. So a lot of times I'll be doing like a post or something, and I'll take two of these levels and go 90 degrees from each other. So if I want to get it straight up and down, I just make that level happy and that level happy, and then I'm ready to tack. You know, and I know this is plumb and straight. These are really great for roll cages, you know, not that there's many level tubes in a roll cage, but if you're doing a dash bar, anything that goes side to side, as long as you level the car first, these are very useful. But I love these things. I use them all the time. I need to buy like 10 more because they're just awesome. And it is the Milwaukee 48-22-5603 magnetic bubble levels. We'll have a link to those in the description. So those were my main choice, but on the same topic, I found some other magnets that I'll go through real quick. So this is a mag switch magnetic ground for a welder made by Strong Hand Tools, I believe. This is just great where if you don't have the ability to get your ground clamp for your welder around something, like if you need to clamp to a big pole or something that's smooth and has no edges to clamp onto, you can magnetically clamp this. And of course, this is one of those amazing magnets where if it's off, it doesn't stick, but then you turn this knob and then it does stick. And so then you could clamp that there and then clamp the ground of your welder to that. And now you can establish ground literally anywhere. It gets us out of a lot of tight spaces. And again, roll cage work is where I use this a lot, where you have just a bunch of tubes and there's no like flanges or edges or small enough tubes to clamp to. Clamp this on a tube, clamp your ground to that. Super awesome problem solver. And while we're on the topic of magnets that you can switch on and off, which I don't understand how it works at all. This is again made by Strong Hand Tools. This is the Adjusto magnet square. Doesn't stick, turn the switch, now it does stick. And it's just awesome because, you know, look, turn it off. There it is, turn it on, doink. And it's awesome because if you've used a traditional magnetic square, especially a good one that's strong, like if you're trying to do something, right? If you're trying to measure, like clamp into here, it's gonna stick, it's always on. So like, it's gonna stick, okay, now it's stuck to here, so I gotta like, you know, push it down and then wrestle this thing over because it never chills. This magnet has no chill. Whereas this thing, I can turn it off. You know, if I have this piece sitting here, I can turn it off, gently slide it in there, and then, here, I'll do it this way so you can see. Gently slide it in there, and then just push that on. Revolutionary, truly. I barely use these anymore because I love that thing so much. So, the last magnet I want to talk about is one that you guys have asked us a lot about. We use it all the time when it comes to finishing or de-drossing parts that come off the plasma cutter. It is this thing. This is a magnetic vise and chuck, permanent magnet chuck. So I know nothing about this one because this came in this machine shop. So I don't know how old it is. I've not really looked into it. It's a Brown & Sharp. So Brown & Sharp made the horizontal milling machine that was up front in the olden days here at the shop. Number 510-4, Brown & Sharp permanent magnet chuck called the Micro Mesh, maybe. But anyway, it's a switchable magnet as well, but it's this nice surface. So when we are cleaning up all of the parts for our, like these are bracket plates for our custom shelf brackets. When they come off the plasma cutter, there's a little bit of dross. And if you've ever tried to clean these things on just a surface, you know, with an angle grinder, with a wire wheel or whatever, I mean, obviously if you don't hold it down at all, you touch the wire wheel to it, it's gonna shoot off in every direction. And you know, it's weird to hold a big angle grinder with one hand and hold the piece down with the other hand. So this thing's great because in the off position, there's a little magnet, but you can like move it around. So you can lay your parts here and then crank this lever down, and now they're not going anywhere. So you could even clamp this whole block down. You know, there's ledges around here, so you can clamp it down with like Bridgeport milling machine clamps. But if you were to clamp this down, and they make these magnetic vices in all kinds of sizes. This is a relatively small one. I would love a bigger one in the future. But clamp your pieces down, and now you can take both hands and run an angle grinder with a wire wheel, de-dross everything, crank that back, you know, flip them, crank it down again, de-dross, and then crank that back, and your pieces come right off. So love that. Magnets are a metalworker's either best friend or worst enemy because obviously you're making a lot of metal dust. That's another thing that's amazing about this on-off magnet. When you're not using it, leave it off. Or if you have been storing it on and it's covered in dust, turn it off. Then the dust falls right off of it. I seriously don't know how these work. They were witchcraft. But we'll put a link below to all this stuff. You know, Strong Hand Tools makes a lot of nice things for fixturing. They make these as well, you know, fixture table clamps. So they're a great company. They were also at PRI, saw a lot of cool stuff. Not sponsored by them, not sponsored by any of these people actually, but magnets, love them. These are my favorite ones. Now, last but certainly not least, my last pick of 2023 is this lovely little DC TIG welder made by Everlast. This particular one is the Power Arc 161 STH. They don't make this model anymore. I believe now it's the 160i or something, but it's in the same price bracket. And this welder, as far as performance for dollar, I don't believe can be rivaled. This thing is so lovely for so many reasons. One, this welder costs, I think the comparable model is in this price range. We'll put it up here on the screen. But when this one was being sold, it was like 450 bucks, 450 for a, I would consider professional grade or at least prosumer grade DC TIG and stick welder. And so that's super cheap. And it's heavy. Like you can tell there's some decent components in here, and it's small. It's really small. It comes with this strap. You can literally throw it over your shoulder. It packed away. It comes with this pretty cool, albeit cheap, carrying case, I have put the welder, all the cables, the gas hose, the regulator, and the torch and some tips in here, and it all does fit. So I would recommend upgrading the case, but if you have to use this one in a pinch, it's incredible. And just like, it's the backup slash secondary DC TIG welder here in the shop. It stays on this cart. I don't keep it in there. If Aaron is using the other Everlast, we have the 210, and I need to do some TIG welding, well, anywhere, I go for this thing. I leave it hooked up, I leave it plugged up, I leave it ready to use, and it's just awesome. It's super, super simple. The interface is really simple. So on the TIG side, you just use this button here. You can change your amperage. You can change, pre-flow, downslope, post-flow, and all that. This thing even has pulse. So it's a $450 welder that has pulse, which is, if you shop for TIG welders or you use TIG welders, that's pretty impressive. So you can set a DC pulse, you can change your duration. So now you can change the hertz, the frequency, and the amount of time it stays on, and then the percentage background current. So it has pulse. You can use a pedal with this, so it does come with a fairly standard torch with a trigger, but you can, like I have the pedal, the Nova pedal from my Everlast 210, you can plug that right into here. It uses the standard Everlast plug. And then shout out to Joe over at Hot Lights Welding. He and other people make aftermarket amperage controls for Everlast machines. So it uses the standard Everlast pin. I just love this welder. We've used it several times in the field. Like we've done some light assembly for railings in the field, like when you need to tack something together in place so you know it fits. Steve and I took this welder over to a brewery in Salem and like did some welding on the inside of a stainless tank. Here's a photo of that. It's rather funny. Steve's legs were sticking out of the hole. But this is a real easy welder to cart across town. Really the only downside is, you have to pull your tank around. But if you do stick welding, you don't need shielding gas. So this is a super solid stick welder. This is actually the welder we took to the bank job where we took that safe door off. I used this to weld the D-rings, which I got a lot of crap for. But I use this to weld the D-rings to the top of the safe door, which is how we did it. So, I mean, bang for the buck, it's pretty insane. I don't know if there's anybody out there making a welder in this price bracket that is as good and as feature rich as this thing. Everlast has given us some free welders, and they did give us this welder, but if I didn't have this welder, I would buy it in a heartbeat just because of what it does. It's amazing. It's super simple. Like even the 210, it's not overly complicated, but there's every possible setting to change on here. And it's a nice welder. It's not my favorite, and I'm looking to replace it. But this thing is no nonsense. You have 2T, 4T pedal, your triggering modes. You have lift arc start, you have high frequency start, you have pulse, you have all your normal settings. You have an upslope, downslope, pre-flow, post-flow. Sorry, no upslope, just downslope. Your one knob that changes all your settings. And then you have some stick settings. You have 60-10 setting, which swaps your polarity, so you don't have to do that down here. You have dig and anti-stick. You have some thoughtful options for stick welding. So just an awesome field welder. Again, it doesn't take up much space. You can leave it on a cart like I do in your shop, or you can box it up when you don't need it. Run your bigger TIG in your shop, and when you need to go out and do field work, grab something like that. Link for that's down below, or the comparable model now. It's the 160, 161 something. You can find it. It's not the longest cord ever. It's a pretty, it comes with a rigid head torch, WP17. But CK Worldwide is really good about making aftermarket torches or making components that you can retrofit nicer torches on these cheaper machines. That's what I did over there. I have a CK Worldwide flex head number 17 torch on that welder, and that's possible because they sell adapters and things like that. So you can call CK, tell them the welder you have. It's an Everlast. So, Everlast has their quick disconnect for the gas, and then their standard like 7-pin or whatever for the triggering. So tell them that, tell them what you have, and you can put any torch on this thing, get a longer torch, whatever you want. But I just think, bang for the buck, this little Everlast DC TIG welder is lovely. I love this thing. So yeah, those are my favorite tools of 2023. It's the first time we've done this video, so as the year goes on, this 2024, I'll be thinking about my next favorite tools. But all these tools solve problems for us in ways that I don't think many other tools would or could. And just little quality of life improvements just make a hard job a little easier. So those are my picks. Stay tuned for Aaron's picks. Yeah, hope you guys like it. On the same token of tool thoughts, favorite tools, I would love to hear what y'all's favorite tools are. So for starters, if you haven't joined the Patreon, consider it, because you can jump into our Discord and talk to us there. But also just comment below what your favorite tools have been in the trade that you do. I love finding tools that solve problems that either I've struggled with forever or problems that I didn't know needed solving until I see a creative solution to something. I do have some runners up I'll touch on real quick. So I have 3 runners up. So for starters, this is a like egg timer. It's a digital, well, it's a clock, and then you switch modes and you can run a stopwatch. So, and it's magnetic. I love this thing because when I'm doing like time and material jobs or repair jobs, somebody's like, hey, you know, I need it fixed. I'm good with whatever budget. Just let me know how much it costs when you're done. And if I don't know how long it's gonna take, I'll use this to literally just stick somewhere and then hit start. And then I go about doing the job. And then when I'm done, I hit stop, and then I can see how much time it took me to do the job. So great way to keep track of time, and they're super cheap. Also, speaking of cheap, I love this little light. This is a LED flashlight from Harbor Freight. It's the Icon brand. It's got a magnetic base. It's got 3 different lights. It's got this front light here. It's got a wide view backlight with 2 settings. And then it's got this tip light, which is nice for getting into small spaces. They're very, very bright. I love this thing. Folds down, folds around. Again, magnetic base, and it's USB-C chargeable. So there's a rechargeable battery in it. Love this thing. It was like 20 bucks. I'm gonna buy several more of them. And then this one you've probably seen. This is a Bosch laser level. So it uses a laser to measure the distance. You can set it to, if you want to measure from the front, the midpoint, or the back side of the level of the measure. So for instance, I could set it in here. Look at that, look how precise these tables are. Set it in here, press the button, then it tells you the distance from the back side to the surface, exactly 2 feet. Shout out Langmuir for their nice tables. Yeah. But this thing's great for site visits, location work, all those rails that we did for the upstairs at that wedding venue in West Virginia, literally measured with this thing on site, and the rails fit perfectly. So they're very accurate. It's a lot easier in many cases than running a giant long tape measure, or any tape measure for that matter. And there are ones that do a lot more. You can map out floor plans and map out rooms and whatnot. But I found this particular one at a pawn shop for like half price. It was like brand new. You can get really fancy ones, really simple ones. But if you do custom work for homes, specifically handrails or custom doors or windows or anything that's got to fit in an existing location that you have to measure precisely, definitely consider picking up one of those. So those are my 5/8 favorite tools of 2023. Thank you guys for watching. Again, we are strengthening our e-commerce system daily. And we're coming out with new merch soon, and always continuing to make products that serve a purpose, make you feel good, and are well built and just cool. So shout out to you guys, shout out to the amazing team here at LiftArc. I feel very lucky to have 3 of my favorite people around me, and got a cool team here. And looking forward to 2024. So Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year. Thank you guys. I'm out. See you soon.